this is Ryan T. Higgins with RTH Guitars. Here to answer the perennial question of can you make a K-Speed Demon into a real player? And the short answer is yes, you can, but the amount of work is probably not worth it. However, if you'd like me to do it for you, I'd be more than happy to. I'd be happy to take your money and turn your Speed Demon into a great player. So, how about I walk you through what I had to do to this one? I bought this, let's back up. My very first guitar was a K-Speed Demon. It's one of the earlier models, kind of had the hole in the back of the neck for the truss rod adjustment. And basically my dad set up a deal with a buddy of his that if I went over and converted like his, I think it was a, I don't know, 69 Chevy pickup, if I converted it to power steering, he'd give me this guitar. So I did that and I got the guitar. And it was such a piece of junk that I got so frustrated with it that I smashed it against the wall because I just could not stand it. It had loose frets, the neck would not go straight, it hummed incessantly. There was just nothing I could do. So anyways, the question had always kind of lingered, and I bought myself this guitar. I went on Reverb and bought the cheapest Speed Demon I could find, which is this True Tone branded K-Speed Demon. And what did I have to do to it? And the whole point was to buy it and see if I could actually make it a player now that I know a little bit more, a lot more, about working on guitars. So the first thing I noticed when I bought this guitar was that it had a crack right here. It looks pretty bad maybe on camera. I don't know if you can see it or not. But I had to clamp the body together and glue that up solid to make the body solid. And then the next thing that needed to be addressed was the frets. It had the cheapo brass frets in it. You could see the machine marks in the fretboard because they had just machined it out and not even sanded it. The fret dots were sunken in too deep. So yeah, so basically I yanked all the frets out of it and sanded this fretboard down, which is, by the way, is nice Brazilian rosewood. It's got that Brazilian rosewood smell to it when you smell the sawdust. So I sanded that down, put new frets in it, medium tall, nickel silver frets, new bone nut on it, and drop filled the top of the marker dots with CA glue and sanded that flat too. So that's all a nice smooth surface. And then the next thing it needed addressed was the back of the neck was rough. They basically never polished it or anything. So I just kind of lightly sanded it, and without going through the finish, except for maybe right there, I was able to get the whole thing to smooth up like a nice neck and feel good. I ran it over the edge of the binding a little bit to give it a nice broken in feel. So that addressed a lot of the playability issues. The other playability issue was the old bridge, which of course was just a rosewood strip that had been shaved down and abused, and it was just never gonna work. I think it would even dished down in the middle. So I ended up upgrading it to this, what is this? Golden Age roller bridge. And it's not because it needed a roller bridge, it just happened to be one I had floating around in my extra junk. But what I did do was when I put the bushings in, I drilled them all the way through the top, so that also pins the bridge in place, which is another problem on these, because as you get strumming, there's not enough downward pressure to keep that thing from sliding back and forth. But with it pinned in place, I can intonate it and keep it going. The other thing I had to do on this guitar is this pickup was dead, so I had to pull it apart and rewind it. That was interesting. And actually, I found out later that the original pickups were wound with like 44 gauge wire, and they sound kind of dark and a little bit weak. And I unwittingly rewound this with 42 gauge wire, and to me it actually sounds a ton better. So there's a secret for you if you want to make these old speed bump pickups sound better. rewind them, I don't know, about 6,500 winds of 42 gauge wire. And you'll have yourself a pretty cool sounding pickup. By the way, this bridge pickup was what I was playing on at the start of the video. Let's see, what else did I have to do? Oh yeah, I had to put a shim in the neck pocket. And actually I 3D printed that on my 3D printer as an experiment. Works great. You might think that a 3D printed shim might impact tone, but you know what? I don't notice anything. It sounds great and gives me the angle I need on the neck. The other thing that was big on this to cut down the noise is I had to pull out all the wiring. It was solid core copper wire, no shielding anywhere. So I yanked out all the wiring and replaced it with braided shielded wire, vintage style. So the whole thing is shielded inside, and that's cut down the noise significantly. Still a little bit of a hum, and I think it's because this switch really isn't shielded on the back. But all in all, it's a great playing guitar. I've got it strung up with 12 through whatever D'Addario strings on it, so they're fairly heavy like a jazz guitar, but I like the sound of it that way. Anyways, thanks for taking the time to check it out. I'm Ryan T. Higgins with RTH Guitars. Thanks a lot.